Hello, welcome to this information presentation from Suffolk Family Carers. This presentation gives information on carers' rights and carers' safety. You'll hear two voices. You'll hear from me, my name's Claire, and you'll hear from my colleague Colin. There's a lot of information here. Some will be what you're looking for, but feel free to fast forward past anything that's not relevant for you. Hopefully, this recorded presentation will allow you to find out what you need at your own pace by pausing and returning when it suits you. I'm going to run through with you now some of the aims and objectives of the session. So the aim of the session is to raise awareness of carers' rights, also about personal safety and other issues that may affect the way you care for and protect both yourself and the person that you care for. So hopefully by the end of this video, you'll understand your right to a carer's assessment under the Care Act and how to access and prepare for an assessment. You'll also understand a bit more about Carers Allowance, what it is, and whether or not you're eligible for it, and about how to go about applying for it. Also, you'll be able to identify possible risks in your caring role, how to look after the health and safety of both the person you care for and yourself. And we're hoping as well that at the end of the video, you'll have a greater understanding of safeguarding with regard to family caring situations, how to spot them, and how to report safeguarding concerns that you may have for either yourself or the person you care for. There's a lot of information here. Don't worry about taking notes. All the information that's contained in this presentation will be available in the booklet that you can receive um, after you've watched the video. And as I said, I'll explain a little bit more about how you can access that later on. We're going to talk, as I said, about your rights as a family carer and your health and safety. And the reason why we're talking about that is because we recognise that being an unpaid family carer, caring for somebody informally without pay, can have an impact. We know from the work that we do with family carers on a day-to-day basis, Colin and I, the family carers that we meet, that being an unpaid family carer, looking after someone that's either part a family member or someone that you know and taking care of them can be really rewarding, and a lot of people talk about it being a real privilege. And we know that you can get a real satisfaction from making sure that the person that you care for gets the best possible care and attention that's right for them and that you know is right for them. And we know that you often learn new skills, and in spending that time that you might not otherwise have spent with this person, you also make memories that can last for the rest of both your life and the life of the person you care for. You can really get a sense of purpose, and of making a valuable contribution to society. And we know you'll have heard Colin and I talk about those 5 ways to well-being, and that one of the really important benefits of giving back, of doing something to help and support other people, is a health benefit for ourselves. You know, the science tells us that actually when we support other people, when we give back to other people, that actually has a positive impact for our health, and particularly our heart health. However, we also know that research has shown that there can be quite an impact on family carers in terms of their health themselves, in terms of both their physical, their emotional and their mental health. It can be pretty stressful being a family carer, so it's really important to learn how to take care of yourself. We know that people's general well-being can be impacted by all the stresses and strains and potential worries and that can be part of being a family carer. And we'll look at some of those in a bit more detail later on. We know that there can be a negative financial impact for family carers, and that's because sometimes it's more difficult to stay in employment or to be employed or to work as much as you would like to, but also because there are additional expenses to spending your time looking after somebody who has additional needs. Okay. There can be an impact on both your social and your family life. It can be very demanding being a family carer, and sometimes there isn't the time that we all need to make those healthy connections and to be involved in other parts of our lives socially. As I said, sometimes being a family carer means that you can't work as much as you'd like to, or even that you can't work at all. And it can restrict your access to education and training opportunities as well. Now, Colin's going to talk a little bit more about choices, but the fact is, being a family carer can limit the choices that you're able to make. If you commit to being a family carer, sometimes that means that other things, other choices go by the wayside. So, hopefully, in this video, we're going to help to give you some information, some ideas, and some suggestions that will help to ameliorate those negative impacts, so that you can enjoy the more positive aspects of being a family carer.
Before we go any further, we would like to point out that we won't be providing any benefit, welfare, or legal advice and guidance. That is not our role. We're here just to provide information. We do strongly suggest that you seek independent advice from other appropriate organisations such as Citizens Advice and the DWP to ensure that you understand and know your rights fully. As a carer, it's really important that you understand that there are two key points to your caring role. There is no legal obligation for you to provide any care or to become a carer. As a carer, you have a right to choose. You have the right to choose to provide the care in the first place. You have the right to choose what level of care you will provide. And you also have the right to choose when or if to walk away from the caring role. It is also illegal for you to be coerced or manipulated by anyone to provide care. The second key point is to understand that there may be a moral obligation to be a carer. We all feel it's our duty, our obligation to family members, friends. However, our willingness and ability to provide the care should not be assumed. And as a carer, you are entitled to protection from the impact of the caring role that you are taking on board. Under the Care Act and the Children and Families Act, both of 2014, your rights as a carer are protected. Under these pieces of legislation, carers' wellbeing must be protected equally to those that they care for. This means that local authorities, in our case Suffolk County Council, have a duty to carers, and these duties can be summarised as follows. They have a duty to assess carers when they come to their attention. They have a duty to provide carers with support to meet their needs according to national eligibility criteria. Eligibility criteria is measured as the impact on the carer that their caring role has in relation to the wellbeing principles. There's more information about this in the resource pack. Local authorities are also required to meet the carer's eligibility needs directly, so they have to work with you directly to provide the support that you need. And finally, they have a duty to provide information and advice to promote well-being and, where possible, to prevent people needing support. This is what we call a carer's assessment. A carer's assessment is your legal right. It is an assessment all about you as a family carer. It is about what you need to continue in the caring role. It is not means tested, and you can have a reassessment every year. It is all about you and what you need to continue. The assessments are requested from Suffolk County Council. Details of how to do this are in the resource booklet. They will assign you an assessor to complete an assessment with you in person or over the phone. Please note that if you are a parent carer caring for a child under 18, the process of applying is slightly different, and you need to speak to the person the child's needs. Now, the assessors are trained to ask helpful questions, but it's always helpful in any of these sort of situations to prepare for your assessment. So take a few minutes to sit down and think about the following. Think of all the things that you regularly do for the person you care for. Which of these do you find challenging? Which of them have a negative impact on your physical and mental health? A negative impact on your work or social life, or on other responsibilities? So have a think, write it down. Writing things down helps some people remember things, and it will also help you to recall things when you come to do the assessment. You could talk it through with a neighbour or family member, or you can complete an initial online self-assessment form on Suffolk County Council website. This is the beginning of the assessment, and details on how to do this you can find in the resource booklet. What you need to do to prepare for the carers assessment is know what matters to you, what you need more of to support your well-being while you continue the caring role. As we've seen, the carers assessment is about what you need to continue in your caring role. However, you may also qualify for carers allowance. Carers allowance is a benefit for people who are giving regular care to others. It is a taxable benefit and forms part of your taxable income. It is based on your earnings, although it's not means tested, so it's not based on your personal income or savings. To qualify for carers allowance, you need to fulfil certain criteria, details of which you'll find in the resource booklet. In summary, some of these criteria include: you need to regularly spend at least 35 hours a week caring for someone. You must care for someone who receives certain benefits, such as attendance allowance or middle to higher rate DLA or PIP. You need to be earning less than a certain amount a week after deductions, details of which will be in the resource booklet. You must not be in education for more than 21 hours a week, and you must normally live in England, Wales or Scotland. Receiving it depends on your own individual circumstances. If you are getting more than the carers allowance amount from other benefits, including your state pension, you will not qualify for carers allowance. However, you will be recognised as a carer, and you may be given underlying entitlement to carers allowance. This means that although you will not receive a carers allowance, it opens up the possibility of extra money with the benefits you already claimed for. So a carers premium is paid with those who are claiming income support or income-based job seekers allowance. Carer addition is paid for those claiming pension credit. This benefit opens up a host of other entitlements such as free dental treatment, housing costs help and cold weather payments. And the carer element is paid if you are claiming universal credit. All of these also protect your payments towards your state pension. Your contributions are paid for you. You will also be recognised as an unpaid carer. Many family pet carers are trying to juggle their caring role whilst maintaining a job. Employment supports the carer with money and also with their well-being. However, the pressure of the caring role and work pressures can start to adversely affect the carer's well-being. As an employee, you do have rights that may help reduce these pressures. Your rights in work come from two sources. The law gives you statutory rights, which everyone has, such as how much annual leave you can have per year. Your contract of employment gives you contractual rights. So it's always important that you reread your contract to see what rights that you have in your employment. It is also important that you inform your employer that you have caring duties and what these entail. If your employer is unsure what this means, we can arrange an awareness session for them and other employees so they are aware of what being a family carer means. There are main pieces of working legislation, regulations that affect family carers regarding hours. The first is flexible working. Hopefully in spring of this year, 2024, the Flexible Working Act will come into force. This means from day one of your employment, you will be able to ask twice every year for flexible working conditions. The employer will need to respond within 2 months, and they will have to consult with you before any decision is made. On the 6th of April of 2024, the Carers Leave Act came into force. This gives unpaid carers the legal right to have 5 days unpaid carers leave. Although this isn't paid, it will still help ease the pressure and maintain the level of annual leave you've got to take. It is also important to remember if you look after an older or disabled person, the law under the Equality Act of 2010 protects you against direct discrimination or harassment because of your caring responsibilities. If you have any employment issues or concerns, please seek advice and support from the relevant organisation, such as Citizens Advice or a trade union.
So we're going to talk a bit now about staying safe, about carers' safety, and staying safe as a family carer. Your safety as a family carer and your continued well-being is important, not only for you, but also so that the person that you care for continues to receive the care they need, and that you're safe, both safe actually, from harm or injury. So the first thing that's important to think about in your caring role is what this involves, the environment um, you complete the care in, and what challenges you face in that situation. So thinking about your particular caring role, what health and safety challenges do you face? What sort of things do you think might put you or the person you care for at risk of harm or detriment? So it might be things like completing personal care tasks. It might be continence support and hygiene. So that's, taking care of somebody's personal hygiene, washing somebody, bathing somebody, perhaps dealing with continence care. So you might be dealing with, kind of bodily fluids and that sort of thing. And there can certainly be some risks around that. So thinking about things in that area, whether that is relevant for you. Moving and handling. That's another thing where there might be risks. Do you support somebody to transfer from bed to a wheelchair, from a wheelchair to an armchair? Do you support somebody while they're moving around? Are there risks involved with that? Are you taking good care of your back and so forth? Are you managing medication? And do you have all the information that you need when you're doing that? Is medication stored safely? Is it safely stored away from other people who might be in the vicinity, other people who might be visiting the premises? Is it safe from the person that you care for so that they receive what they need to receive at the times that they need to receive it, rather than having access to more or less than they need? What are the issues around medication in your caring situation? In terms of behaviour, challenging behaviour, some of us in our caring situations do face challenging behaviour from the person that we care for. Are there any risks associated with this? Is there any possibility that there might be some harm either to the person that you care for from their behaviour, or to yourself from their behaviour? And what about your own health? Are there any risks either from your health conditions or to your health from your caring situation? And what about emergencies? It can be a pretty 24/7 role being a family carer, and it can be pretty stressful and frustrating. Without you realizing, it can take over your life if you're not too careful. And that can have a pretty negative impact on your physical and mental well-being, and can lead to you feeling pretty burned out. Yeah, you can feel stressed, and that can weaken your immune system. You could become ill more often, and you might take longer to recover. And this can start putting yourself and the person you care for, at risk of injury and harm. So you need to take account and think of your own health and safety as well as that of the person that you're caring for. So, in the first of all, let's start thinking about the basics regarding safety. Is your home, the place where you're caring for the person you care for, is it free from trip hazards? Things like loose rugs or clutter on the floor. Is it easy to navigate and move around without risk of tripping or knocking into things or falling? It would be good to see if you're eligible for a home fire safety visit. There's information about this in your booklet that accompanies this, so don't forget to, when we get to the end, I'll explain how you can access that. Do you have to complete a lot of moving and positioning of the person you care for? Are you supporting them, as I said before, to transfer from one place to another? Are you having to move them in case of risk of bed sores and that sort of thing on a regular basis? And what's the impact of that on you? Do you have the skills and the knowledge to know how to do that safely for both you and the person you care for? What about equipment? Do you have the correct equipment in your home, in the place where you're caring? That might be something really, big like a hoist or that sort of thing, or it might be things like sort of transfer boards. Slide boards that can move you from one place to another, or slide sheets that can help you change a person's position. Yeah, there's lots of different equipment that can really help both the person you care for, but also help you to take care of your health. Okay. If you have equipment in the house, are you trained to use it safely? Do you know how it works? Do you know how to use it? Some of this stuff can be quite complicated. I remember being delivered a lifting cushion, which was delivered to my doorstep by a courier. Um, and my daughter, who was quite young at the time, and I having quite a lot of fun playing with it, but really and truly, I didn't know how to use it safely for the person that I was caring for. And actually, it turned out that it wasn't the most appropriate for the person I was caring for because they didn't have the necessary ability. So it's really important that you understand the equipment that you have, but also that you understand how to use it and whether or not it's suitable for the person that you're helping and for you. Do you need adaptations to the situation, the house or the home, the property where you are caring to ensure both your own safety and that of the person you care for? Do you have space to move around to perform the support and the activities that you need to do to help that person? Not only is there room for a wheelchair, but is there room for you as well as the person in that wheelchair to move about? Is not just the equipment, but is there room for you as the person operating the equipment and supporting the person as well? Okay. So um, as we said, really, really important to think about all of those things. Um, and thinking about whether or not it would be helpful for you to have an OT assessment. Okay, that can come as part of a carer's assessment, which we've spoken briefly about already, or as part of the care needs assessment for the person that you care for. So make sure if you do need any assistive equipment that you do mention that during the care needs assessment for the person you care for and your own carer's assessment. And an occupational therapist can visit your home to help with that. Also thinking about would the person you care for benefit from assistive technology to help them stay safe in their home and take off some pressure off you and some worry off you. Perhaps if you don't live with the person, it might be that things like alarms and Cassius collection items can be provided to take the worry away from you when you're not actually able to be there. And it can be provided free of charge if you meet certain criteria. Really important to be asking for an OT assessment to ensure health and safety for both you and the person that you cared for. As we said before, maintaining your own health and safety is absolutely vital so that you can continue providing your caring role. So that you're doing it safely for your own benefit and for the safety of the person that you care for. If you injure yourself, or actually, heaven forbid, you injure the person that you're caring for, this can really have, consequences both the short to medium term, but also potentially in the long term. If you damage your back, actually that can be life changing. Just think about what would happen for you, your family, and the person you care for example, if you did damage your back seriously. Back strain, back injuries can last a lifetime, can cause a lot of pain, can reduce your mobility, and might even be serious enough for you to require surgery. So it's really important to take care of it. It can be one of the biggest causes of ill health and sickness within the health and social care sector. So, for even paid carers need to really pay attention to their back. Just as important for you as an unpaid or family carer to take care of your back. So you'll see here some of the common causes of back strain or back injury for family carers. So, for example, helping an individual on or off the toilet, helping them to get in and out of bed or to ensure that they're comfortable in bed. Quite often people need to be moved on a regular basis if they are bedbound or even if they're chair-bound. And actually, moving people can be quite awkward when you're kind of bending over, leaning over to try and move, help people move to get comfortable. You need to be paying attention to your back, but also getting a wheelchair in and out of a car. I spent many, many months, in fact, during my pregnancy, um, removing my partner's electric scooter from the boot of our car. And I know that that didn't do my back any good at all. But there are ways to do that with some proper direction and some proper help that can protect your back. So it's really important to be aware. Um, Quite often, where you've got somebody who is unsteady on their feet or unstable on their feet or has balance issues, and you are supporting them to prevent falls, or you're trying to pick them up after a fall, that's also a really significant potential problem in terms of looking after your back. So, looking out for these potential problems is really important, and finding ways to protect your back in those circumstances really, really important. Now, you will receive, as I've said, information about this in the booklet that accompanies this video. But Suffolk Family Carers do have some moving and handling support available. So if you are regularly lifting or moving someone, it's best to obtain training or have someone demonstrate proper techniques for your health and safety. So to better support you with your moving and handling needs, Suffolk Family Carers have a range of free services, all delivered by moving and handling professionals. So there are live online workshops and group in-person workshops, and these provide information and basic tips, an introduction to general moving and handling techniques, and details of how to care for your back. Really, really important. There are also face-to-face sessions in the home of the person you care for, so in the context where you're providing the care. So if you regularly support the person you care for to move, your back hurts, or you would like more confidence in moving the person you support, then a face to face home visit by our moving and handling professionals might be the best option for you. So, if you want to access any of those services, as I've said, please see our resource booklet, which I will explain at the end of this video how you can access that. Please, please, though, be aware this is not an emergency service. If you've just had a piece of equipment delivered and you need urgent support, how to use it, if you haven't had that, please talk to your GP to arrange an NHS occupational therapist to support you. Or, as I said, you can go online and request an occupational therapy referral as well. I mean, you should, any equipment that is delivered to your home, moving and handling equipment, you should receive training in it, or you should have received some sort of explanation previously. But please don't start using equipment until you do feel sure that you understand how to use it, and do get professional information about how to do that. Family carers tell us that one of the most stressful things for them is worrying about what would happen for the person they care for if there was an emergency and they, as the family carer, were not able to provide the caring that they usually do. If something happened to the cared for and they can't explain their needs, so in that situation, heaven forbid that that happens, but it's really important for for both your peace of mind, but also to ensure a continuity of the good care that the person you're caring for to receives, is to have an emergency plan. And that can cover all the essentials of the care that the person needs. So basically, the kind of real essentials that it needs to cover is emergency contact details. Who else can be contacted if you're not available? Who else needs to know? And where can they be contacted? You need to think about including in your emergency plan the communication needs of the person that you care for. If they are hearing impaired, if they have difficulty with speech, what's their preferred method of communication? You need to have that down. How is it best to try and communicate with them? Obviously, really important, any information about medication needs to be included in your emergency plan. So, where is it? What's the regime, how much, how often, which medications, all of that sort of thing. Where is it stored? If you keep it locked for safety, where's the key or what's the code for for accessing the medication? If the person you care for has one of those kind of repeat prescription lists or care plan, that can be added into the emergency plan. How would somebody access the place where you're cared for is if you weren't available? Are there keys that you would that would need to be found on your person or with you? Is there a key safe with a key code? Thinking about also what warnings, what kind of heads up would the person need to know? Would you need call out to the person? How would the person get into the home? When you're thinking about that, so it might be that there's a key with a neighbour, but just know where the access is, which doors are the right ones to get in, whereabouts the person you care for will be found in the home. What sort of care and support does the person need? Do they need help with mobility? Do they need help with personal care? Do they need help with feeding? Do they need, what sort of help is it that the person you care for needs? As I said, quite often people will have a care plan. It might be just something of your making. It might be the routine that you kind of stick to. But if that's available and can be put into your emergency plan, all the better. When we're talking about access to the home, one of the things that's really important to think about as well is other people in the household. Are there other people that are dependent on you, or are there other people in the household? And we need to include in this any pets in the household, particularly cats or dogs. So when other people are accessing the home, is there a cat that might rush out? Is there a dog that might welcome new visitors? How might that best be handled? So that information also needs to be in your emergency plan. And something that's really important and perhaps we don't always think about is what is the attitude of the person you care for to somebody else providing care instead of you? Now, it doesn't matter if they're not going to like it. That's not going to stop people helping the person you care for if you're not available. But it will help replacement carers to know what the person's attitude is. It may be that they really don't like having anyone other than you help them out, and that they're going to be a bit backed off, or they're going to be a bit stressed, or they're going to be a bit angry about that. And it will really help whoever is replacing you to have that information. We always say that it's really important to plan for the best outcome for both you and the person that you care for, and ensuring that the plan is comprehensive, has all that information, and is known about will reduce any anxiety. And at least, that's one less thing for you to worry about if you find yourself unable to continue caring for any reason, whether that's ill health or if you've had an accident, even if your car's broken down and you're far away and you can't get back to do the next task. If you know that there's a plan in place, that's going to leave you to be able to either deal with your own health situation or whatever your emergency is without worrying about the person that you care for as well. So in order that this can work, just having the emergency plan is, you need a bit more than that. You need to share it with people. Okay, sharing your emergency plan. When you're having a carers assessment, you can also ask for an emergency plan. And you can also, if appropriate, complete a Herbert protocol as part of the assessment. Make sure you mention emergency planning and Herbert protocol if that's relevant during your carers assessment. And this will be registered with Suffolk County Council, and you'll receive a key fob, like a thing to put on your keys, a key ring, that sort of thing. You can keep it in your bag or whatever, so that if you're involved in an accident or in an emergency, you can show that, or that would be found on your person, and then whoever's dealing with your emergency will locate that, and they'll be in contact with Suffolk County Council, and therefore the emergency plan can be put into action. If you haven't had an emergency plan registered with Suffolk County Council, you can also register it with your GP and your local authority yourself. The other option is to make a message in a bottle and keep it in your fridge. So, Lions clubs used to, I don't know if they still do, produce little cylindrical plastic pots with a green lid and a green cross on them, where you could keep a copy of your emergency plan. It's kind of well known by emergency services that these are kept in the fridge. That's kind of like expected thing. So you can put a green cross sticker on your fridge or somewhere in your home, and that will alert them. But generally speaking, emergency services tend to check fridges, particularly in properties where they find that there is somebody, a vulnerable adult or somebody with additional needs. They tend to check fridges for that information. And again, you'd put all the same information into that little container. You can make your own. It doesn't have to be one that's made, provided by the Lions Club. It's just like a little plastic container, even like a plastic Ziploc bag in your fridge. If you put a green cross on it, that will identify it as what it is. But again, all that information about emergency contact details, communication needs, medication, types of care and support, other people who need to know, and what the person's attitude is likely to be. All the stuff that's in your emergency plan in that little bag or little container in your fridge with a green cross on it, that will give people information as well. Another thing that a lot of people do these days is set up a WhatsApp group. If you set up a WhatsApp group with everyone who's involved with the person you care for, you can take a picture of the plan and post it in that WhatsApp group so that, if something goes wrong, then it's there. It's in the WhatsApp group. People can have a look at it and check it out. Everyone else is aware. And it's also, if you've got that WhatsApp group, you can let everybody know in one fell swoop. I hope that some of that's been useful. We're going to talk now a little bit about a lasting power of attorney, and Colin's going to go through some of that with you.
One of the major plans you can have in place for yourself and for your cared for is a lasting power of attorney. These ensure that the needs and wishes of yourself and your cared for are written down and that they will be followed in the event of a lack of capacity to make a decision. This is all based on the capacity of an individual to make decisions, and this is regulated by the Mental Capacity Act. The Mental Capacity Act 2005 is an empowering and protecting piece of legislation supporting vulnerable people and able to make their own decisions. The MCA says a person is unable to make a decision if they cannot understand the information relevant to the decision, if they cannot retain that information, if they cannot use or weigh up that information as part of the process of making the decision. Capacity should always be assumed, as capacity can and does fluctuate. It can fluctuate over a week, a day, and even an hour. And also remember that what can be seen as an unwise choice is not seen as a lack of capacity. A lasting power of attorney is a legal document that lets the donor appoint one or more people, known as attorneys, help them make decisions or to make decisions on their behalf if they have an accident or an illness and they cannot make their own decisions, i.e. they lack mental capacity. There are two types of LPA. You have health and welfare and property and financial affairs, and you can make one type or both. Please note, your spouse or next of kin has no legal given right to control your affairs, make decisions on your behalf. Therefore, it is important that you have an LPA in place so that your wishes can be fulfilled. It is also important to avoid stress and expense to ensure that you have an up-to-date will. Although you can prepare your own will, it is advisable to get independent legal advice on this. So, how do you make a lasting power of attorney? It's quite a simple process, but it can involve some difficult decisions and will require some difficult but important discussions. The first thing you need to do is choose who you would like to be your attorney. You can have more than one. You need to discuss this with them. The attorney must be comfortable with doing it, and you must be comfortable with the person you choose. You don't have to use the same attorney for each type of LPA. You do not have to choose a family member. If you are unsure about anyone and how they would act in line with your wishes, then do not choose them. You then fill in the forms to appoint that individual as an attorney. Separate forms for each type of LPA. You can complete the forms yourself or with the support from family and friends. You can get a solicitor to complete the forms, but this will cost extra. The OPA then needs to be registered with the Office of the Public Guardian. This can take up to 20 weeks to be registered. You can do the process online and take your time over it and then save where you are and come back to it. But there are still parts of that document you need to print off and get signed and send away to the Public Guardian. That's for signatures. But what happens if the person you're caring for is lacking mental capacity and there's no LPA in place? Clearly, if someone is lacking mental capacity, they can't make a valid decision to appoint you as an attorney. So therefore, in this case, you'll have to apply to the Court of Protection to be appointed as their deputy. This is expensive or can be expensive and it can take time. When you become a deputy, you must send an annual deputy report to the Office of the Public Guardian each year explaining the decisions you've made for that individual. As you can see, these things take time, so it's always best to plan and start these processes as soon as possible to avoid any extra stress. This leads us into the area of safeguarding. Now, the word safeguarding can be seen as a scary word with connotations of serious situations requiring the input from the police or social services that get highlighted in the media, but it's a catch-all term used to support individuals. Safeguarding is based on the idea that everyone has the right to have their health, well-being and human rights protected to allow people, especially children, young people and vulnerable adults, to live free from abuse, harm and neglect. It must be remembered that everybody has a responsibility for safeguarding those who are vulnerable. So what do we mean by those who are vulnerable? All children under the age of 18 are considered to be vulnerable for safeguarding purposes. An adult over the age of 18 is considered vulnerable if they are receiving care or support due to a learning or physical disability, a physical or mental illness, or addiction to alcohol or drugs, and are dependent on others for or require assistance with basic physical functions, or have a severe impairment in the ability to communicate, or are unable to protect themselves from assault, abuse, or neglect. In the unpaid caring situation, it's important to understand that harm and abuse can be done accidentally. If you're aware of this and understand that it can be done accidentally, situations and actions can be adapted and support access to stop it from happening, to protect yourself, the cared for, and others. Abuse can cause harm, which could be physical, psychological, financial, sexual, or emotional, and may take other forms. It can be done deliberately or done accidentally, unintentionally. Unintentional abuse or neglect can arise through a number of situations, including pressure on a carer building up because of a difficult behaviour from the cared for. However, unintentional abuse can happen both ways. It can happen from the carer to the cared for, and also from the cared for to the carer. Now, there are different situations that can cause this to happen, such as enforced social isolation. That's preventing someone accessing services and seeing friends. There's removing mobility or communication aids or leaving someone unattended while they need assistance. There's the preventing the expression of choice and options, the failure to respect someone's privacy. It's also preventing stimulation and meaningful occupation or activities. It can also be intimidation, coercion, harassment, the use of threats, humiliation, bullying, swearing or verbal abuse from one person to another. It can also be addressing a person in a patronising or infantilising way and threats of harm or abandonment. This can all lead to a possible breakdown in the caring role relationship. So how do breakdowns in the caring role relationship happen? You need to be aware that a chronic or progressive illness, a disability, poor mental health, or an addiction can lead to all kinds of stresses. There could be money worries, an increase in disability, a loss of autonomy or a loss of independence, a feeling of isolation, a loss of identity. There could be fear and uncertainty about the future, changes in social status, communication problems, and challenging behaviour. Changes in the family dynamics. Relationships with others in the family, partners, children, especially when others do not get as involved or fully understand or appreciate the situation and the pressures felt. Now, I'm sure that if you take some time to think about a caring role you have, you can think of others. The stress can build up to such a level that the smallest insignificant thing can increase the stress and increase the likelihood of the relationship breaking down. Please remember, these stresses can affect the person being cared for and the person caring. Even the healthiest, mutually supportive relationships can suffer in a family caring situation. This can be the relationship of you and the cared for, you and others in the family, or you and your social connections. Changes in role can put a strain on the dynamic, especially when you start your caring journey. And sometimes the challenges can feel intolerable, and this is when the relationships can break down. Please remember, as we've previously said, you have the right to have your needs, both physically and emotionally, protected to the same extent as those of the cared for. As a carer, you should not need to put up with abuse as much as you should not be abusing others. What should you do if you have concerns about abuse? If you feel that a vulnerable adult or yourself is at risk, you need to contact Suffolk County Council. You can make a safeguarding referral using the Suffolk Adult Care Portal. You'll need to create an account, but that's quick and easy. If you feel the person is in immediate danger, please contact customer first quickly and securely using their live chat feature on the website. If you are a victim of abuse, you can call the Suffolk Domestic Abuse Helpline free on 0800 977 5690. If you think you or someone else is in immediate danger, always call 999. All of this information is to be found in the resource booklet.
Okay, so we've talked quite a lot about safety and safeguarding, talked a bit about emergencies and all that sort of thing. And we wanted to spend a bit of time talking about your well-being. So basically, that's what Suffolk Family Carers are all about. We're about the well-being of family carers. And you've heard about things that can support your well-being, like carers assessments and training and those sorts of things. So, why is it so important to take care of ourselves? Well, it's really important that you are physically and mentally as well as you can be in order that you can stay resilient. It ensures that you're able to continue to provide the care at the level that you want to. Everyday pressures and demands of family caring roles can build up and undermine our ability to cope with pressure, and that can lead us to feeling stressed and overwhelmed. And stress can trigger unhelpful patterns of coping and lead us to common mental health conditions such as anxiety and low mood. You know, we're all subject to stresses day to day, but we've talked about how particularly stressful it can be being a family carer, because it's quite isolating. There's a lot going on. There's lots to take on. We know it can be rewarding, but it also can be quite stressful. And the problem with that is that sometimes when we're stressed, we all lapse into perhaps unhelpful coping strategies. Maybe drinking a bit too much caffeine so that we think our energy levels up, we keep awake and we can keep doing. But we know caffeine long term is not great for our health. For some of us, and I'll put my hands up to this, an extra glass of red wine of an evening to try and wind down when you've had a particularly stressful day. And that's fine in moderation, but over time, if we become kind of dependent on that, if we start drinking perhaps a little bit more to try and calm our nerves, then that can actually have health implications in the long term as well, as we know. So, all of these things, the pressures plus potentially the negative coping strategies, can undermine our ability to bounce back. We can become less resilient, and we're less effective in our caring role because our health and well-being is not as strong as perhaps it could be. Those of you who've been on holiday overseas or been on an airplane will know that the hostesses or the hosts on the cabin crew on the plane always they do all that kind of semaphore stuff, don't they? Telling you where all the exits are, emergency exits are, and then they say this thing about If the oxygen masks drop from overhead, you must affix your own oxygen mask before assisting anyone else. And there's really good reason for that. Because if you are gasping for breath, if you are at the end of your resources, if you aren't able to function because you don't have enough oxygen in your body, you're actually not in a position to help anyone else. So it's really important that you take care of yourself. Partly, mainly because you you have a right to health and well-being, as we've heard about in terms of the legislation that ensures that you have a carer's assessment, but also because, you can't be there for other people if you're not feeling okay yourself. The research has told us that there are 5 ways to well-being, or 5 things that we can do to take really good care of ourselves. These are being active, moving our bodies. You don't have to be a gym bunny. You don't have to be an absolute, a running machine. You don't have to be a competitive level swimmer or any of those things. But actually, moving our bodies, the science tells us, is incredibly good for our health, not just physically, actually, but also emotionally and mental. And you can choose the way of moving that suits you best. Personally, I'm a walker. I walk my dogs twice a day. I like a bit of Tai Chi, maybe a little bit of Pilates, and I like swimming. And I like outdoor swimming. I'm a bit mad. I like swimming in cold water. Um, but, whatever floats your boat. If you like a bit of dancing, if you like walking, if you like a bit of yoga, whatever it is that you like, there's lots and lots of things available. If you're watching this video, then you're quite capable with using the internet, and there's plenty of stuff on YouTube, anything from chair yoga right through to full on aerobic sessions or Zumba or something, if that's what floats your boat. But just moving, whatever you can do, it'll make you feel better. It produces positive, happy hormones, happy chemicals in your body, and it'll help improve your physical mobility, keep you moving for longer in life, and hopefully protect your heart as well. The second thing is giving. It's been proven that those that give some of their time to help others benefit from an increased feeling of happiness, as well as the other person benefiting. But it's not just about giving your time. It can be as simple as just asking someone how they are, smiling at someone, or doing a small good deed. And there's an organisation called Action for Happiness, which is trying to have a wave of kindness across the world. What I love about this is that there is research coming out of America that actually says that giving of ourselves, giving back, doing something to support others has actually been scientifically proved to protect our heart health. So not only does it make us feel better on an emotional level, but it actually, now there is science that says that it actually protects our heart as well. Thirdly, keep on learning. Learning new skills, taking up a hobby, attending workshops, either on a recorded one like this, or on an in-person workshop in a venue, or online, an interactive online workshop, getting new information, reading, and it can be about your caring role. It can also be about just anything that takes your interest. Just keeping our brains active. Again, the science tells us that that really has a positive benefit for our own health and well-being going forward. I personally, I do Duolingo on my phone. I'm doing French at the moment. I've had a little dabble with Spanish, but it's just something like that. Or the other thing is that I quite like to do things like Sudoku. I never know how to say that, but Sudoku, I don't know. Puzzles on my phone. So word puzzles or number puzzles or those kind of things. Just keeping your brain active. Reading. Reading is incredibly beneficial. Listening to podcasts. It doesn't matter how you get that learning, that it will help your brain to keep firing on more synapses, and it also, again, it gives us a kind of a forward focused kind of perspective on life. It keeps us positive, and it'll give you a sense of achievement and self-worth as well. Fourthly, Connecting. Connecting with others is so important for our emotional well-being. Human beings need to be social. It's part of our the essentials for our well-being. So reach out to other people. Um, Caring can leave you feeling a bit isolated. So it's really important to reach out to realize that you're not alone. Make the effort to contact friends on the phone, via social media, better still in person. Have a coffee date if you can possibly find the time. It's really good to talk, and the science, again, supports that actually making those connections, connecting with people, actually has a beneficial impact, not just on our emotional and mental health, but also on our physical health. It protects our heart health. And lastly, the fifth of those 5 ways to well-being is about taking notice. In our caring role, we can slip into the habit of thinking about what ifs. You can start to get worried and start feelings of anxiety. We know, don't we, that worrying about the future can lead to anxiety. We know that thinking about the past and regrets can lead to depression. What we want to do is to focus on the here and now. That's what's healthiest for us. And we can do that in lots of ways. And we use the term mindfulness for that. We don't have to be doing a formal meditation practice to stay in this moment, to be mindful. Just take time to see, concentrate on, focus on what's happening outside our bodies, what's happening around us. Concentrate on our breathing, focus on our breathing, and just notice our breathing. Whatever we're doing, we can do it mindfully. Those of you who have been to any of our workshops will know that my favourite mindful practice is eating chocolate. Try it, especially really good quality dark chocolate. If you spend time doing whatever you're doing, you can be washing up a cup, but spending time focusing on whatever it is you're doing, whether it's eating that piece of chocolate or washing up that cup, whatever the task is in front of you, if you spend time using all of your senses, so you're focusing on what you can see, what you can hear, what you can taste, what you can feel through your hands and your fingers, what you can smell, really noticing with all your senses and slowing down that task really helps both your mind and your body to relax, and it keeps you in this moment. Because after all, what's happening now is really the only thing we have control over. So do that as often as you can during the day, 5 or 10 minutes. It doesn't need to be more than that. And I say, especially at the end of the day, it can be really helpful just to take a moment to be mindful of the positive things that have happened to you. Just remembering something that has made you smile, or just remembering something in detail can just help you to relax, and that can help with sleep. One of the things that is really, really important is taking a break. We know that being an unpaid carer can feel like a 24/7, 365 days of the year job. There are no maximum hours, there's no paid holidays or breaks or sick pay, and it can feel like a constant drain on your personal resources. A bit like having a continually open tap on your personal well-being bucket. So it's really, really important to take a break from time to time, turn off that tap. It can be hard to find ways to do that. It doesn't have to be costly, lengthy, or difficult. Even, as we spoke about previously, taking that 5 minutes just to really pay attention to the task that you are doing, that is actually taking a break from your caring role. Just building in small breaks, minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour of you time that you are focused just on you and how you're feeling and doing something for yourself. It might be doing that little puzzle that we talked about, or reading a bit of your book, or whatever it is. And sometimes putting a door between you and the person that you care for can be enough just to give you that kind of restorative few minutes to focus on yourself. The other thing that is really important to do is to try to replenish your well-being resource bucket from time to time. To think about things that fill your bucket, things that help you to feel more energetic, to increase your resilience and fill up your bucket, make you feel better. So, what are your options for taking a break? So, as I said, you can take a break for a few minutes, a few hours, a day or more, or a week or more. Those are all opportunities. Some I absolutely are harder to come by than others, but it's important, particularly when you're doing your carers assessment, that you think about, okay, what sort of breaks do I already know that I can have or I already have built in? What sort of breaks do I need more of? And be talking about that in your carers assessment. How can I get them? So you have options. And again, this video is not going to wave any magic wands. There will be information in the booklet that accompanies it about how to access some of these things. But you can put some thought into what it is you need in terms of respite or a break from your care, and what are the options, what are the resources that you would need for that. So you might need some replacement care. You might need a sitting service, either in the daytime or in the evening, perhaps if you want to go to an evening activity, or if you need a night off. That might be paid carers. And so obviously there are funding implications for that. So that's something you would need to talk about in terms of your carers assessment, but also the person's care needs assessment. It might be that you need some more time off during the day, so that you can do a course or do a day's work or a little part-time job or something like that. And that might be something like day services might fill that gap. Again, you need to talk about that during your carers assessment or during the care needs assessment for the person you care for. You might need residential respite care. So the person you care for might need to go and stay elsewhere and be cared for elsewhere while you take a longer break. It might be that you actually need a holiday, or you need to pay attention to your own health care needs, and residential respite might be the way forward. Once again, that will need to be assessed for suitability, but also for funding via your carers assessment or the care needs assessment for the person you care for. As I've said, if you need help with funding, really important that you mention this during your carers assessment and the care needs assessment for the person you care for. But I want you to think as well about less formal opportunities for respite. Do you have friends who would come and just sit with the person you care for a little while, or would come and visit you in the setting where you're caring, so that although you're still in that setting, you're getting a bit of a distraction, you're getting a bit of me time? Do you have family members who could give you a bit of respite? Again, either by visiting or by coming and sitting for you whilst you go out. Same with neighbours and community and faith groups. There's actually more than you might realise out there in terms of people who are willing. Now, we know, we talked, didn't we, about how important for our health and well-being it is to give to others. And actually, that applies to those people out there, your friends, family members, neighbours, and community and faith groups as well. They will get a benefit from doing you that favour. So, in a way, you're doing them a favour. So, don't shy away from asking. Really important to reach out and ask for what you need. You know, the first person you ask might not be able to help, but keep at it, because there are people out there. So one of the things that it suggests that you do in the booklet that accompanies this video is make a list of all the people who you could perhaps think about asking for a bit of help and support in terms of respite. So, we have talked about your rights, your entitlements, we've talked about safety and safeguarding, and we've talked about your well-being during this video. And what I want to invite you to do now is to think about, as a result of all of that, what's next for you? What's the right thing for you to be doing as a result of what you've seen and heard during this video today? You might want to make an appointment for some one-to-one advice from Suffolk Family Carers. You might want to book onto another one of our workshops, an interactive workshop, either online or in person. And I'll talk a little bit more about what other workshops we have available in a minute. You might, if you haven't already, want to get a carers assessment. If you've already had a carer's assessment, don't forget that that should be reviewed at least annually. And certainly, it also should be reviewed if there are any changes in your needs or the needs of the person that you care for. Because if their needs change, then that's going to have an impact on you. So if there's any changes, it should be reviewed. Your carer's assessment should be reviewed as soon as possible. Again, details of how to access your carer's assessment are all going to be in the booklet that you can receive, and I'll explain how at the end of this video. You might want to get some benefits or financial advice or apply for carers allowance. There are details in the booklet about how and where you might access financial or benefits advice and how you go about applying for carers allowance. You might want to look into applying for or supporting the person that you care for to apply for a power of attorney. You might want to look into will writing. You also might want to encourage the person that you care for to think about advanced disclosure. Bear in mind, as we mentioned earlier, there may be some issues around capacity involved, so there might that you might need to get some legal advice around that as well. Again, in the booklet, there'll be help for you in that respect. You might want to make and register an emergency plan. We talked about what's involved in that. So you can start to do some of that yourself, but you might want to get it formally registered. And there's details in the booklet about how you can do that. And lastly, and I would say most importantly, you might want to plan some me time, some time for you, some refreshment of your well-being bucket, and things that you can add to your bucket to improve your resilience and your ability to do what you're doing. And also you might want to think about things that you want to avoid, things that you need to take a break from, things that are not so helpful, maybe some unhelpful coping strategies that you might have got into the habit of using. Really don't beat yourself up about that. We all do that. I certainly have been guilty of overeating and having the odd glass of red wine too many at times when I was really stressed during my caring role. But it's important to be aware of them and plan for how you're going to address that. Sometimes if you bring more positive things into your life, actually the need for those negative coping things kind of fades away. So how can you get some rest and how can you bring some more positive things into your life? As I said, the resource booklet, which I'm going to explain in a minute how you can get hold of that, there is space for you to write down your needs and wishes when you've had a think about how your role is, and that will help you to highlight and plan for the support you need. Once you've watched this video, we'd be really grateful if you would complete a quick evaluation. This helps us to improve our services for family carers, and also to inform our funders about what we're doing and what family carers would like us to do in the future. And if you would like to receive the information booklet, and I would really recommend it. There's lots of information in there, as well as lots of kind of worksheets to help you kind of put into practice some of what's been in the video today. And if you'd like to receive the information booklet that supports the workshop, you can email support programs at suffolkfamilycarers.org. That's support programs, no spaces, all lowercase, at Suffolk Family Carers, no spaces, all lowercase, .org. Stating the code word cracks. That's capital letters CRACS followed by booklet. You'll need to say whether you'd like to receive an email or a paper copy. And if you'd like a paper copy in the post, you'll need to provide an address. Once you've sent that email with the code word cracks booklet to support programs at suffolkfamilycarers.org, our admin support, Louise, will send you a link for the evaluation and also the information booklet in whatever format you've requested. As I say, we'd be really grateful if you would complete the evaluation form. So from both Colin and I do hope that this has been helpful to you. Lots of information there, I realise, but hopefully in this format, you've been able to take your time and watch what's been in your own time frame and watch what's been useful to you and skips over stuff that perhaps isn't as useful for you. And I hope that we meet you in person at some time in the future. Thanks for listening. Bye.